Hello and welcome to another edition of American Forces Perspective. I'm Senior Airman Bettina Kleuver. Air and ground crews from several NATO countries came together in Germany to learn about each other's equipment and procedures. Staff Sergeant Daniela Marcus says the occasion was known as Exercise Ample Train.
During Ample Train, the focus is on the ground crews, what they do and how they do it. More specifically, crew chiefs and weapons crews from one country teach those from another how to service their planes.
And this is where we train those guys to be able to go back to their home units, teach the guys how to work on the various airplanes.
I think it's really good that we can do this sort of thing so that if, for instance, this F-15 were to land in Spain, I wouldn't necessarily have to go there to perform a task that someone already there could do for us. Ready? Yep.
Crews and planes representing 9 NATO countries were involved in this exercise. Similar experience and the fact that most of the planes are American-built helped everyone overcome the language barrier between them.
We don't speak English that much in Norway, so that's the problem. We don't get used to it. So, but the TOs is in English and all the job guides and everything, but the speaking is the problem.
They all understood. I don't speak any other language, but they understood what I was talking about, and they asked a lot of questions. Some were really good. They're better than I than I was. So.
Yeah.
2 Ample Train exercises are held each year, with the NATO allies taking turns hosting the event. This was the 21st. Sergeant Daniela Marcus, Air Force News, Pfalzfeld Air Base, Germany.
Up until last year, to maintain combat readiness, America's military forces relied on a large-scale training exercise called the Return of the Forces to Germany, or Reforger. But those days are no more. Reforger is now named Atlantic Resolve, and the fighting is done where no human has ever been. Senior Airman Mark Pleasance has more.
More than 200,000 Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine, and NATO forces are massing as 2 countries prepare for war. The 2 countries are North and South Titania, and fortunately, they only exist here, inside a massive computer network. The 2 countries and their military forces were created inside a computer as the battleground for Atlantic Resolve 94.
This is the future of training. Right now, we are deploying forces to the South Titania, which is our NATO nation, and we will go into a war fight on about the 1st of November, and then we'll have combat that will be initiated by the North Titanians.
The nerve center of Atlantic Resolve 94's operations is the Warrior Preparation Center in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Their job is to implement the commands given and monitor the results. This is the 8th and largest exercise the WPC has conducted this year. Players' commands can come from as many as 16 different places, stretching from Birmingham, Alabama, to Italy, Germany, and around the world.
You see the good guys represented by the blue icons, the blue 4. You see the bad guys represented by the red icons, the OP4. The OP4 icons are being moved, ordered around the battlefield by a cell that's in Birmingham, Alabama. The blue icons are being moved by personnel in Grafenwehr, Germany, and Vicenza, Italy.
Before there was computer-simulated wargaming, it took more than 60,000 troops and costs reaching into hundreds of millions of dollars to allow generals and their staffs to practice for a full-scale war. This year, about 14,000 people will take part at a tenth of the cost, as soldiers go from the field to the computer screen. Airman Mark Pleasance, Air Force News, Kaiserslautern, Germany.
The reduction of Air Force personnel is slowing down. The service quickly met its requirement to separate 17,000 enlisted members, closing the program October 4th. On the officers' side, only a small number of volunteers are needed to meet a reduction quota of 1,700. Major General Bert de Witt, commander of the Air Force Military Personnel Center, says that next year's reduction programs will be much smaller and involve a change of focus.
We will start out emphasizing the early retirement option and focus really on folks that are 15 years or more in the service. We've really achieved a lot of the downsizing that we want to do with younger year groups, and so we're going to start out with this fiscal year 96 program, which will be small, both for officers and enlisted, but the small numbers that we take, we're going to try to take from the older year groups.
As military cutbacks and reductions slow down, USAF's top officials are busy looking for ways to fix the problems caused by those reductions. The command's new senior enlisted advisor, Chief Master Sergeant Eric Benkin, says it's time to change priorities.
What our challenge is going to be, now that the force is stabilizing a little bit, is to refocus on the quality of life, the promotions, the housing, and things like that that affect our people daily. We want to take as much stress as we can off of the things that distract them from doing the mission.
The 37th Airlift Squadron is now assigned to Ramstein Air Base, Germany. In 2 ceremonies, the squadron stood down at Rhein-Main Air Base, Germany, only to stand up at Ramstein the same afternoon. Staff Sergeant Clay Cogsdill was on the Ramstein flight line when a ceremonial flight of 3 C-130s landed.
The arrival of the 3 C-130s represented the culmination of months of work by both the 435th Airlift Wing at Rhein-Main and Ramstein's 86th Airlift Wing. The 37th Airlift Squadron is now one of 3 airlift squadrons based at Ramstein.
It is now the center for airlift, both strategic and theater airlift here in the theater.
Attention to orders.
While a ceremony marked a new beginning for the squadron, the base is still undergoing construction to accommodate the C-130s.
The accommodations, I think, are going to be a lot better just for the sake that we can practice right out of our home base rather than operate out of an international airport where we had to go someplace else to train.
Although the 37th ALS is now officially assigned to Ramstein, several of the squadron's 16 aircraft will remain at Rhein-Main, flying in support of Operation Provide Promise. Sergeant Clay Cogsdill, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
For the last decade, the NCO Academy at RAF Upwood, England, has prepared thousands of Air Force NCOs to become senior NCOs. As a result of the military getting smaller, the Academy is closing its doors. Senior Airman Brett Baker was there for the last day of school and has the story.
The Academy opened in January of 1984 and has graduated 6,776 NCOs. The school's closure means the Kissling Academy in Germany is now USAF's only NCO academy. The school was closed because there is no longer enough NCOs in Europe to justify having more than one academy. In 1987, the school was dedicated as the Archibald Matthews NCO Academy. Matthews won the Medal of Honor for saving the crew of a B-17 in World War II. Unfortunately, he died when the plane crash-landed. His brother David, also a World War II vet, was there for the school's dedication in 1987 and for the last day of classes. He says the Air Force is losing something special.
Teaches these young people the meaning of the United States Air Force and what it means to our country in a defense vehicle. And I think they're losing a lot by not having something like this, especially over here in Europe. And right here, maybe 10 miles from where he was killed.
The school staff has invested countless hours of personal time to ensure that the heritage of the base and the local area have been preserved for the students.
Over the past 5 years that I've been here, we've done a lot of research into Sergeant Matthews as well as the Upwood community. And we worked very hard at displaying it for the students so they have some sense of their history. And it's kind of sad to watch it all go away.
The 3rd Air Force Senior Enlisted Advisor visited the students on the school's last day and talked about what the school meant to the Air Force in England.
There's a sense of possession, a sense of camaraderie, and a sense that the people here truly understand what is happening on this island. We're going to lose that.
The final 103 graduates gathered for the school's last retreat ceremony. As the class marched off the parade ground for the last time, the Matthews NCO Academy marched into the history books. Airman Brett Baker, Air Force News, RAF Upwood, the United Kingdom.
It is so inextricably linked to readiness and our ability to do the job that to focus on quality of life, as far as I'm concerned, means you're focusing on the mission. The people will execute the mission if we provide, as long as we continue to provide, the right kind of quality of life things for them.
Operation Deny Flight kicked off, Aviano Air Base Italy has been one of the most active air bases in the world. Handling a contingency operation from a permanent party position also makes it one of the most unique, as Tech Sergeant Don Jackson reports.
For the past 6 months, this is the way it's looked at Aviano Air Base's airfield. In one word, busy. And the mission of Deny Flight shows no signs of slowing down.
We've flown since April, out of Aviano since last April, just over 13,000 sorties. So that's an awful lot of manpower and national treasury expended on this operation.
An operation difference not only because of the wide diversity of aircraft in the Deny Flight inventory, but because the mission itself is being guided by a permanent party force.
We sort of have a unique situation here in that we're doing Deny Flight sorties combat missions with our own 31st Fighter Wing based F-16s. And as far as I know, that's the only place in a contingency op in the world where we're doing it out of home station. So that presents some interesting problems that we're learning to deal with.
So what would normally be a TDY focus on the mission is a situation where you go to church, go have brunch, and go fly a Deny Flight contingency sortie and come back and see your family that night.
Pilots spend hours on end, day in and day out in the skies of their area of responsibility in the former Yugoslavia. Staying focused becomes a challenge, and one of the greatest threats is the risk of the mission becoming too routine.
Which is dangerous in itself. You have to motivate yourself to stay on top of things, so because it is a dangerous situation. The possibility of being shot at is always there. So
the possibility of action obviously keeps you on your toes, and you want to be prepared for anything that would happen.
With Deny Flight, the people of Aviano Air Base are living contingency day to day, and there's not a lot of time to think about the routine. Sergeant Don Jackson, Air Force News, Aviano Air Base, Italy.
Life at Aviano also has changed a lot with the addition of 2 new fighter squadrons. Tech Sergeant Jim Frost reports the massive influx of people has made day-to-day life a big challenge.
The permanent arrival of 2 new fighter squadrons has doubled the population of Aviano Air Base. The small base, located in northern Italy, now boasts more than 4,000 people. Aviano is a small base in transition, and few people understand this as well as Senior Airman Tim Bridges. Bridges is a security policeman that has worked on the base for the past 3 years.
Well, I used to be able to sit down in there. I used to be able to sit down when I first got here. Like I said, it's basically I'm standing all day, constant traffic. There's no lull in traffic. It's always, no matter what gate you have, we have 4 gates, and no matter which gate you have constant traffic all day long, all day.
When you first come to Aviano Air Base, 2 things become apparent right away. 1, the place is really busy. 2, you can't find a parking spot.
You know, parking's real hectic to go to the commissary, the BX. The Italians have been real nice. We've encountered a lot of Italians that are very nice. Our neighbors are very kind. It's just the hecticness of everything, of so many people coming at the same time.
But I cannot get really negative about this place because I'm coming from Morocco and I appreciate this.
Plans call for building additional facilities and parking lots to help meet the increased needs of people in the Aviano area. In the meantime, the base's leadership is moving to eliminate all the little problems that add up to frustration. Sergeant Jim Frost, Air Force News, Aviano Air Base, Italy.
In the last session, Congress set up a commission to review the roles and missions presently assigned to various military branches. Before this century, there was no debate. The Navy fought at sea, the Army on land. Staff Sergeant Clay Cogsdale has this report.
For its part, the Air Force maintains that technology has created a whole new way of fighting wars, what it calls the deep battle, as demonstrated in Desert Storm, and a high battle where space would be the arena. Within the active duty Air Force, Major General Charles Link is the primary officer working on roles and missions.
Most of the contentious issues are probably between the Air Force and the Army, and they have to do with the extent to which air power is brought first to the Joint Force Commander for him to decide how to use it, as opposed to how much air power can be anticipated to be brought to the Land Force Commander.
One specific mission the Air Force has, but wants to turn over to the Army completely, is close air support. This is the use of air power close in on the battlefield.
This has been a source of tension between the Air Force and the Army over the years. It has a lot to do with our different perspectives.
The Air Force feels the ground commander should directly own all the air assets he needs for close air support, while the Air Force concentrates on the deep battle.
But it is easier, it's more efficient for us to apply air power against the enemy before he closes than it is after he's closed, and we now have all sorts of restrictions about how that air power can be employed.
One doctrine being challenged by the Air Force is called air-land battle. It paints the role of the Air Force as primarily support for the ground commander.
It's a problem that's nagged the Air Force since our beginning. And I think what has kind of kept it below this level of discussion up until now is the occasional doubt about capability.
Doubt about capability ended with Desert Storm. The Commission will present its findings and recommendations to the Secretary of Defense next year. Congress will have the ultimate say on who does what within the military. Sergeant Clay Cogsdill, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
The success of an Air Force pilot's air mission is largely dependent on proper planning. Accurate maps of the target area is one of the key elements. In past conflicts, such as the Persian Gulf War, planning had to allow 3 weeks of lead time for present photo imagery technology. With a system known as Eagle Vision, which is being tested at Ramstein Air Base, Germany, that could all change, as Tech Sergeant Don Jackson reports.
With this red ribbon cutting by USAF Commander General James Jamerson, official testing of the Eagle Vision system began, which may eventually open the doors to a whole new world of efficiency from the perspective up there.
The advantage to what we have right now is we can do it a lot more expeditiously. We can do it faster. We can get requirements in and produce them according to our schedule and not line up in the queue of other people's requirements.
Now that it's here and then we can use it and we can put it onto systems within a few hours and have it available, really improves the efficiency of the combat systems that the Air Force has.
Under present technology, it takes weeks to produce maps and charts for a flight mission planner. Eagle Vision does it in days from as far away as 2,100 kilometers.
Currently, the spot satellite is the best source of the broad area and multispectral imagery that we are needing to enable the pilots to perform their mission planning and mission rehearsal activities.
The process involves 3 steps. Actually pulling the picture of an area down from a satellite dish, recording the image, and producing it to maps and charts for a flight mission. The technology process itself is the result of a joint effort from the Air Force Materiel Command and the French satellite company Matra Systems. Thus far, it's been a cost-effective success.
I mean, if there would be an example of how cooperation between our two nations, which are allies, should work, typically Eagle Vision is the example.
Eagle Vision's fully deployable, and once Air Force Intel operators are done with its testing phase, they expect it to be on the road by late next year. Sergeant Don Jackson, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
In a moment, we'll take a look at a few changes that will affect our lives. And later, we'll welcome back 2 men who went to great lengths to raise money for needy children. These reports when American Forces Perspective continues. Champus has been a part of the military healthcare system since 1966. Now, in 1994, special circumstances have led to a change for the program in Europe. Active duty family members won't have to pay the cost shares on medical treatment they receive from host nation healthcare providers. Right now, though, that change in Champus is only a demonstration that will be evaluated over the next 3 years.
We're not looking, by the way, to have people go to the economy or to the host nation in lieu of going to our own system. We want people to stay in our own system. We want to be able to try to take care of them ourselves.
Europe was chosen based on the hardship many families have because of the increase of deployments. Other considerations were the reduction of people and the number of different languages. In times of ever-decreasing funds in the budget, the change in Champus is a daring move.
This whole thing is justified on one thing and one thing only. That the fact is that we want to make sure that our active duty people in particular get the access to care that they need, and that's what drives it all.
If the system's benefits outweigh the cost, it may also be implemented in the Pacific region for active duty family members. But regardless of the geographical location, this change does not apply to retirees or their families. One of the things that doesn't change with the new Champus system is the need to file a claim, so upfront payments can be reimbursed or for healthcare providers to receive their fee. Base closures and more deployments characterize the nature of today's constantly changing military. To help people adapt, the Air Force hired some counselors who specialize in dealing with change. These counselors recently visited RAF Chicksands in England. Senior Airman Brett Baker reports.
For the last year and a half, Meg Haycraft has been teaching Air Force people how to deal with change.
Change is one thing, but a lot of change in a short period of time really calls up more skills that they have not had the benefit of having, and we're now supplying them with.
The 3-day program is called Taking Charge of Change. The course helps professionals who provide counseling to people in need. During course sessions, psychologists, chaplains, and other professionals receive guidance designed to assist them in their efforts to help people face change.
Rather than resisting the change, you learn how to partner with it, whether it's separation from the military or whether it's a promotion in the military or whether it's more frequent deployments, that you understand that there are gains to be had from whatever those life-altering events are.
After completing the course, the students will go back to their bases and teach the program to their co-workers. Chaplain Dave Cody feels the concept of the course is simple.
Change can be a very, very fearful kind of thing, but it's reasonably easy in a few steps to get people from the point of being afraid of change to the point of seeing change as something that is a real positive and something that they can look forward to and manage in a way that's going to be best for them.
To make sure their training is working and to answer any new questions, the trainers conduct follow-up phone calls 6 months after providing the training. In addition to England, the instructors are also conducting seminars in Turkey and Germany. Airman Brett Baker, Air Force News, RAF Chicksands, the United Kingdom.
And finally, 2 men who ran and biked their way from Ramstein Air Base, Germany to Zagreb, Croatia are back at Ramstein after completing their excruciating journey. Tech Sergeant Jim Frost says the men received a warm welcome everywhere they went.
A 683-mile trip Stan Hardesty and Scott Elder started in front of the elementary school at Ramstein Air Base, Germany, has ended successfully with the 2 men reaching Zagreb, Croatia. In Croatia, the men were welcomed by the citizens of Zagreb and the handicapped students they were trying to help. Scott and Stan are now back at Ramstein. After resting up a few days, the men came to Donna Michelle's 4th grade class.
Is it important?
The men came to share their experience with the children who supported their charity drive efforts.
Physically, Scott, his knees were hurting him. His hip was bothering him. I had a bad ankle when right before I crossed from Germany into Austria, so I had to tape my left ankle up every day. But besides that, considering the distance, we were quite healthy.
During the running and biking journey, high winds and freezing temperatures made progress slow and painful. One of the biggest problems was the ever-present danger of being hit by a moving vehicle. In one case, Scott Elder almost got smeared by a train.
because it was the big tires were lodged right into the train track, and I started hearing this dinging, ding, 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 but it didn't mean anything to me. So I pulled it about 20 seconds, I pulled it about 5 or 6 times, and I yanked it expecting to blow up the tire, and it pulled out, and I looked, and I saw the gates going down, I saw the lights on, and I saw lines of traffic waiting for a train, and I was in the middle of the track. Well, and I heard this rumbling, so I got the bicycle off. Quick guy, I should be a photojournalist, I think. Quick guy, I reached in, got my camera, and as I turned around, the train came through about 50 or 60 miles an hour, so I got a picture of that train.
Although Scott and Stan's achievement was impressive, the two men credit the hard work of the American children. Scott and Stan say the children of Ramstein made the charity drive a success.
That's right.
Our class went over to other classes across the street and over on this side to collect donations, food and clothing for the Croatian children. And we came back, packed them, put them in paper bags, we folded them up, taped them. We put them in the back, and then what we would do is we would do the fireman's carry and load them in the truck.
They need things. They need supplies and they need food and clothing. And it's if we were them, I would want them to bring us things.
We've processed 2.5 tons of food and clothing and packed it.
The Ramstein military community raised more than $3,000 and a truckload of food and clothing. Although the run and bike ride is now history, Scott and Stan hope to continue to help the handicapped kids any way they can. And they add, donations are still being accepted at the Ramstein Recreation Center. Sergeant Jim Frost, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
Sure. Thank you for coming.
And that's our program for this month. I'm Senior Airman Bettina Kleuver. Join us again in December for another edition of American Forces Perspective.